Woo!
Welcome to Night Talks, the University of Florida College of Journalism and Communications talk show produced by students for you. I'm Rafaela Arnaz, a third-year student studying media production, management, and technology, and our guest today is Dr. Natalie Mitchell, a CJC grad who is a marketing professional and business owner. Hi, Dr. Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Was there a specific experience or influence in your life that set you onto the path to work in public relations, the field in which you earned a bachelor's degree at UF from?
Yes, right here in the J School. We call it the J School when I was here. And I will say that I met with a counselor and I had no clue what my major would be. And so we went through several sessions and she had different books about career paths. And when I talked with her, she asked me to identify what are the must-haves you would like to have in your career. And I said writing, entertainment, and I think I mentioned food. For the obvious reasons. And so over time, we identified public relations could be a career that would involve writing and travel. That was the main one, travel and entertainment. And so I said, I had not heard of public relations. That was my first time being familiar with that name and career field. And I went from there and declared it my major right here on campus. Yes.
That's so amazing. After your undergraduate studies, you worked at CSX as a management trainee. Mm-hmm. What did your role with this organization entail?
So I started there right after college, as you stated, and it was a rotational program in the corporate communications department, which, as some may know, is a part of the public relations field. The headquarters is in Jacksonville, Florida. So got very familiar with trains. Like I'm familiar with sitting at a traffic light, waiting for the trains to pass as a rail crossing, but I wrote content for the internal and external newsletters, also developed mapping sheets that included information about specific crossings in different parts of the region, also hosted some corporate events and planned those as well. So it was a great experience with internal, external communications, working on press releases and the like.
While still working on your undergraduate degree, you founded Jazzy Productions, Inc. What inspired you to start your own PR and event firm, and who were some of your clients?
So Jazzy Productions was birthed right here on this campus at University of North Florida. And honestly, it was the internship I could not find. So I was looking for an internship, could not find one, and I literally created work for myself. So by day, I was in classes like PR writing classes and campaigns. So learning the principles of public relations, how to develop campaigns and messaging. And then I took that in the afternoons and evenings doing student work with the Black Student Union, other programs, but also that was where Jazzy Productions was developed. So I was putting that to use in real time. At the time, my first client was actually our co-owner and friend. She had a fashion line. So we launched our fashion show and we got about 200 folks to come to it. It was in Jacksonville. And it was amazing to have that many people come to our first show, but it was very successfully executed. Different comedians in the area, so we hosted fashion shows and comedy shows in the city. I've done PR work for a few attorney offices as well.
It's truly really inspirational that you were a student while working in your own entrepreneurial company. Was it difficult to start with your clients and getting people to know your company and starting in there?
It was challenging, and sometimes all it takes is one endorsement. So doing good work, being professional, and being able to deliver on those results are helpful. So I work with several city council campaigns, the Gaffneys. You guys are probably familiar with the Gaffneys. These are football legends, one of which just passed recently. They're from Jacksonville. So I was able to get connected to that campaign by way of work that I was doing at another agency. You know, it just opened more doors across the board. So I would say that doing good work, and if you have an endorsement from a past client or a mentor in your community, that can go a long way.
You earned your master's degree from Florida International University. What was the focus of this degree? And did you have a plan at this point to continue in academia?
Yes. So the program was called Integrated Marketing Communications. So after earning a degree in public relations, I went to dive into marketing and getting more into branding. And the focal point was basically examining brand mentions and with celebrity endorsers. So that was like the beginning of that. And my master's thesis was actually on some of the rap campaigns that included like alcohol mentions in the campaign. So that was pretty cool. But I will say, while working in that capacity in graduate school, I knew that I wanted to pursue a terminal degree because I was really excited about research.
You worked at Macy's for a few years eventually as a Southeast Regional Events Manager. Walk us through your progression there.
Working on my master's degree, I had some unanswered questions because I was working at Macy's at the same time. So full-time at Macy's by day with travel, and then full-time graduate student. And I was living in Miami, so there was a lot going on in South Florida, as you can imagine. But I managed to get it all done, get it done correctly and professionally, should I say. But I worked as a regional special events manager. I worked with 50 Cent, Patti LaBelle, Robin Thicke, a host of different celebrities. And as we were hosting these events in cities like Atlanta, South Florida, Alabama, I always wanted to know like which brand was most salient. And the term salient is common in marketing and advertising, meaning which brand is most prominent, which one is drawing the consumer in. And in many cases, we have multiple brands present. Of course, you had the retailer, Macy's, then you had the celebrity brand. They were there introducing a new product, cologne or a bedding. And then also sometimes there was a charity brand associated with the event as well. And in my mind, I wanted to know which was most important to the consumer, which was drawing them more into the store. When I talked to my manager about it, she said, your focal point is just to execute the events, not to start, delving into these research questions. And lo and behold, the questions that I was asking were actual research questions that academics with terminal degrees actually pursue and investigate. And I knew then that I was curious, inherently curious, nosy to say the least, and wanted to learn more about this branding in general. And that kind of triggered me to go into getting the PhD in advertising. But going back to your question with Macy's, I had multiple roles. First, starting out in the merchandising office for men's underwear, which laid the foundation for essentials. And, we'll kind of talk about that later. But I was working in the buying, so basically selecting styles, colors, and sizes, and the number of units that would be deployed in stores, South Florida, and all throughout the state of Florida, should I say. Then I transitioned into advertising and media planning. And so that was a great experience when you see some of the Macy's direct home pieces and that they're kind of organized by departments. So I was identifying those type things, negotiating buys for both print and radio. And then as the company was closing, literally the company closed April 30th, and May 1st, I started a new job. I was very fortunate. There was a huge consolidation. As you hear, retailers are experiencing a lot of closures, and that was happening in 2009 as well. And so I was fortunate to interview and be hired as a regional special events manager, and that was my last role, but did a lot of travel working with celebrities and also executing events from Christmas events with Santa Claus, bringing in clowns and stilt walkers, all the way up to fashion shows.
It's so interesting how you found your way in with so many different jobs, and it's just so cool to hear.
And I'll just add, I realized then I was literally fulfilling what I had wanted to do when I started here at UF, a job that involved writing, travel, and a little bit of entertainment. Yeah. So I checked all three of those boxes by the time I got to that position at Macy's.
That's so amazing. In 2010, you enrolled in the University of Texas at Austin to pursue your PhD. What was the focus of your research at this level?
I focus on consumption habits, in particular related to luxury product placement and keeping up with the Kardashians. So I learned a whole lot about them. I had to watch
so influential.
Right, they are. So I had to watch a whole series and analyze all the luxury mentions, whether it was verbal or visual, and in some cases it was both. And I discovered that through this process, when some brands are blurred, like when there was a MacBook, and MacBook didn't allow permission for their brand to be viewed 100%, the logo was blurred, which drew more attention to the actual logo. So when I tested it with some research participants, I showed them various clips of brand mentions in the show and asked them, would you be influenced to ask more questions? Would you be influenced to buy it? And in some cases, some folks were interested in going out and buying the product if they could afford it. Or in other cases, if they could not afford it, they would also consider counterfeit consumption of luxury goods. So which is a whole nother dark world of consumption.
That's very interesting because you usually see product placement in scripted TV shows and scripted movies, but you don't usually think about reality TV to be another outlet for that.
Yes, and I would say that product placement is a very much a driving force to allow for the production of the show, because sometimes they don't always have celebrities on there, but reality TV is unscripted, scripted TV. I know you guys know.
Yeah. In 2018, you then became a marketing researcher at the University of North Florida. What types of projects are you involved with now?
Yes, so I take a step back. I became a marketing professor after completing my PhD from University of Texas in 2014, and I was at Tulane University. And so that was the beginning of my academic career as a faculty member and researcher. And my research continued on with consumption habits, particularly of those who are marginalized. And a lot of the work that I've done, and that's particularly at UNF, was actually, you won't believe this, chasing funerals. So I, in particular, have been interested in what we call conspicuous consumption, meaning that very ostentatious forms of consumption, which kind of, leans into luxury. However, there are some cultures that celebrate death versus just, attending a funeral and being very solemn. The city of New Orleans, which is a city where I live, while working at Tulane, I had the chance to experience second line funeral processionals that occurred after the service ended. And so I was fortunate to get funding from the department dean or the college dean, and I made 2 trips to New Orleans and literally was chasing funerals. Was waiting on phone calls. Hey, okay, well, someone else passed. Can you come? And so, yes, I can come. And there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. So with this particular research project, we learned that even those who may have minimal means, due to cultural norms, they were still willing to make the investment of having a grandiose celebration of life for their loved ones.
What are some of the most difficult aspects of conducting this type of marketing research?
So in this case, I would say cost. So sometimes there isn't a budget available. So this involved travel, flight, hotel, and the like. And if you are afraid of death, then this may not be the right research area, right? Because we took a tour of a mortuary, was behind the scenes. So that was challenging. And then also it was starting to feel a little uncomfortable getting immune to the sadness, like going to funerals and realizing that someone's loved one is gone. So I would say that type of research and that particular angle was a bit challenging for those reasons.
In addition to teaching, you also worked as a marketing strategist for the Population Health Consortium of Northeast Florida. What was the Come Back Jacks campaign? Yeah,
so that campaign was developed for a nonprofit organization during the time of COVID. So if you guys remember, it was a very dark time globally, and in particular here in Jacksonville in the state of Florida, there was very limited guidance coming from the state and local government at the time. And I was working with the Population Health of Northeast Florida, which consisted of a consortium of healthcare professionals, medical doctors, community health advocates, and the like. And we needed a marketing campaign to communicate to the public, hey, what are things that we need to do and how do we come back? So, if you wear your mask and you wash your hands, we can get back to going to the Jaguars games. We can get back to, having family and friends over and having crabs. And these are things that are pretty popular in the city of Jacksonville. So the Combat Jacks campaign was working on us coming back as a community.
You're also the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Essentials. What was your motivation to start this brand, and what products do you provide?
Yes, so Essentials is a health and fashion intimate apparel line that was developed in 2021. So the focal point of this company, should I say, is looking at alternatives to undergarments for women. And the motivation behind it is actually me. So I started making changes to some of my consumption habits. So first, like with sustainable items like food, then I moved from food to personal care items for face, and then from personal care to bed and bath linen. The next product category closest to my body was then intimate apparel. And I was seeking sustainable garments that were functional, and then also those that were comfortable and pretty. I like to have a nice balance of both. So like I'm unwilling to eat healthy food if it doesn't taste good. So I was unwilling to buy sustainable undergarments if the garments were not pretty. So that's like the foundation and the backstory of Essentials, and that those two things can actually coexist at the same time. Essential stands for intimate essentials. So focusing on the garments that are essential to women every day. So most women wear a bra and panty daily. And the focal point is that these garments will have functional benefits like breathability and moisture management that will allow them to be comfortable. So whether they are, working from home or going into a corporate environment, they'll have that, and they'll have this nice flare of prettiness that they know that they're wearing underneath. I was fortunate to tap into my skill set that I developed while at Macy's, and sourcing and working with vendors and understanding what we call fashion math. I traveled to Paris to go to a lingerie trade show because all the leading lingerie producers or brands are at this particular show. So that really put me in the right place in where decision makers are, and helped me identify both fabric producers and manufacturers. And we're currently in development and working through next stages. Aside from that, we pivoted, faced some challenges with an investor, had an investor on deck that we were negotiating back and forth for over the course of several months. And then in the 11th hour, unfortunately, they were no longer able to participate as an investor. So I was preparing for my first vendor show, and I did not have a product. I didn't have even a prototype to show, and I said I have to do something. So that's where the launch of our bra travel cases were introduced. So this is just a good transition to talk about staying the course, being willing to pivot, and focusing on the things that you can do for yourself, and to continue to be resilient along the way.
Wow, yeah, that truly does make a difference. Intimate apparel and all that it entails, I think, really has a difference in the quality of our everyday life. Sometimes we don't notice why we're feeling like uncomfortable, and it's quite literally just because we don't have the right size, it's not the right material. So that's incredibly interesting. With the research that you've done with luxury marketing, how does that apply to your own brand and Essentials?
Yeah, so I shared that for personal reasons, as to why I developed Essentials, but also there's empirical theoretical research that has been developed as well. I, along with my co-authors, which is an international research team of marketing professors, developed a new framework called Positive Luxury. It just recently was published in the Journal of Marketing Theory in March 2025. So in this proposed framework, we identify and share the fact that luxury and sustainability can coexist in the same space. Many times when you think of something as sustainable, it is something that's for the betterment of the world and for the people. Luxury is perceived as unnecessary. It's superfluous. And so we argue that both can coexist in the same ecosystem. And when we're talking to our participants in the study, there are different ways of how this can actually work. And I will say for Essentials, I have been very intentional with how the organization is structured. I intentionally have sourced out factories and suppliers that honor the sustainability pillars that I have for Essentials, meaning how the factories are structured, how they treat their employees, and the process of producing items. So again, I consider Essentials a part of my life work because it kind of hits on different parts of my past career and is founded by both research and personal experience.
There's a lot of exciting developments with Essentials, such as the LIST grant and participating in several programs. What is the latest?
Yes, so I'm very grateful. Essentials has had a product in market just a little over a year, and we've gotten a lot of traction in building a brand, which is not easy when you're coming from 0 to 1. So introducing yourself as a brand founder, in addition to also launching products. So with that being said, I was fortunate to be awarded a grant from LIST. LIST is an organization that provides funding to support economic development. Just recently, I have been accepted in the Goldman Sachs 1 Million Black Women Business Program, which is a business accelerator program or should I say business education program that is taught by the NYU Stern School of Business. So it's a very rigorous program. Aside from that, I'm in Jacksonville, which is where I and the brand is located. I was recently accepted in a program called Launch Her, which was designed to introduce new businesses by way of an organization called Generation W. So just last week, I was fortunate to be a vendor, to sell products, drive sales. Also, a recent feature by way of there, by being on the local news station, sharing more about my product and my value. And I will say that the products are functional. You know, people will look at it and say, oh, it's a little bit provocative, but it's a functional product designed to hold the mold of the bra, so it does not get crushed in a suitcase. Bras are not cheap. They are expensive. Also, to retain the life of the bra, caring for it properly, allowing it to have the proper structure will, increase the length, the timeline of the bra. And then also better support gives you better posture support as well. Aside from that, our consumers use it to store toiletry items. I've had some customers who have used it to store their breast prosthetics. And so we're moving into the B2B market and connecting with medical supply companies and the like to be considered as a preferred vendor, and which is a part of our strategy for 2025. And earlier this year, I was an exhibitor at New York Now trade show, which is one of the largest gift and retail trade shows where all the buyers come in to shop new and cool brands. So that was the first time that Essentials was taken on the road outside of Jacksonville up to New York, and got a chance to meet a lot of great buyers, boutique owners, and just find more ways to integrate and familiarize people with the brand, the product across the board.
How was your time at UF foundational?
It was for so many different reasons. I was very active on campus with the Black Student Union, Black History Month programming. We brought a lot of dignitaries here, like Danny Glover, Snoop Dogg. He had the Old Dome lit, very lit, if you know what I mean. You know him. He was very lit for in more ways than one. But we had a great time. I realized that I learned a lot about how to run an organization. Robert Rules of Order, taking minutes and following procedures, which was in compliance with the student government or Office of Student Activities at the time. So that was very instrumental. I also was a caller I was a rep dial caller. I don't know if they still call it that, but at the UF Alumni Foundation. So it was always fun calling the alumni and raising money, and I'm telling about our experiences here on campus. I had a great experience to the point where I did not want to leave. And I really wanted to get back to higher ed. I didn't think that I would become a professor. I thought I would, work in student activities, but the college atmosphere is something that always has, to me, has been very vibrant. So my time at UF definitely laid the foundation with lifelong friends, professionally and personally. Shout out to Dr. Julie Dodds. She's retired, but she definitely served her time, has been very committed to students here at the University of Florida. And she was a godsend. One of the best things that happened to me at UF is Dr. Dodd. So I'm always grateful to talk with her, and I appreciate her so much.
What was the most valuable lesson you carried from the corporate world into your entrepreneurial journey?
I would say confidence. And I know it sounds cliche, but if you don't have confidence, it's going to show up in every part of your life, in your personal life and relationships, along with your career and your decisions. I probably was a little bit more timid as I was younger. You're kind of learning your way around that, but I learned quickly that doesn't benefit you. You're your best advocate. And so you need, it behooves you to make decisions that will benefit you both personally and professionally. And I've carried that on into my role now as an entrepreneur and marketing professional, meaning that I focus on making decisions that are kind of going to benefit the organization and being able to take risk, with starting a business at 21 and then also, other opportunities. So being a risk taker and having confidence in yourself will carry you far in life.
I know we've talked briefly about it before, but from your experience, what does it mean for a brand to actually engage authentically?
Show up as you are. So a couple things about me that I just cannot deny, and I'll just share this because this happened recently. So at the Goldman Sachs program, we were brought in for the orientation in the New Jersey headquarters office. I'm a music head. It's never not going to show up. I really want to be a rapper, but it was obvious that I didn't have the skill set. I just need to focus on, working around the industry if I could. So long story short, I sometimes talk in rhymes. So I was getting ready to go to the mic to ask an intelligent question. And when I opened my mouth, literally the spirit hit me and I started freestyling. And so it just broke up the room. Like, this is a room of 300 business owners, NYU faculty. And it came off naturally, and I was just rhyming my name, M-I-C, Natalie, da-da-da-da-da. And it was comical, but we are all polymaths. A lot of people are polymaths, meaning that you can be good at more than one thing. So just because you're a great cook doesn't mean that you can't dance or sing. Or you're an academic doesn't mean that you can't, tap into your artistic side. So being authentic is true. A couple of times I've recorded videos and I would just drop in a song. I say Get Money a lot. That was a popular song when I was in high school, Get Money by Junior Mafia and Biggie Smalls. But I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. Like I'm raising funds now for the business. So I'm trying to get money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of music, you also co-hosted on the Music Joy podcast. What was the pod about and what went into the production?
Actually, this is a really great question because the podcast was co-produced by a friend and fellow classmate, Dr. Kelly Edwards. She's a graduate of the College of Journalism as well in public relations. And today she's a pharmacist and a JD. So she's a double doctorate. So I always big her up in her success coming from the J School here at UF. But we both love music. She's actually a musician and she probably has way more talent than I have. I like the theoretical side of music. And so we were hosting shows, started this during COVID. And we talked about music therapy. We did an episode about theme songs. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there was a lot of emphasis on jingles for television shows versus today, the jingles are shortened or they're not as prominent for television shows. And part of that is because the TV time has been adjusted. So anyhow, we kind of talked about some of our favorite songs, the producers of it, and the like. So it was a fun podcast. It was like a labor of love and a hobby for the both of us and our love of music.
What is one principle or skill that you found important in your career?
Listening. And I've learned this later in life. So it's important to listen to understand versus listening to speak. That would serve you well. And I've learned that, in professional settings, even with conflict, it behooves you to pause and to really take time to hear the other party, what they're explaining, and the like. And so I would say that has been a tip that's been very beneficial.
I will be using that. Thank you so much for your insights, Dr. Mitchell, and thank you so much for all the life lessons you gave us today. And thank you so much for our viewers for joining us. Until next time, good night.